Until this moment, when we had to modify the pieces of our character, the body, parts of the suit, or any other segment, we have always had to go from subtool to subtool, modifying piece by piece. That in some cases is good, but in others it takes up a lot of time, because they are modifications in which we waste a lot of time doing them one by one. In this video, you will learn a very useful tool that will allow you to take each subtool and combine them into a single package, so that you can modify everything together and save you a lot of time. In this video, you will learn what the Transpose Master panel is. El Transpose Master is a very useful panel that, as I mentioned before, will allow you to combine all the subtools to modify them together and will save you a lot of time. To do that, we just have to go to the Save Z plugin panel, Transpose Master, and then click on this option, T-Pose Mesh. By doing this, we can see that here in the subtool panel, we combine each and every one of the subtools that we had. Apart from that, appeared a new model in which we have the whole piece together. When we are in this mode, our greatest allies, so to speak, are going to be mask and the move brush, because at this stage it is more common to make such large modifications, rather than small details. Now that you have combined all the pieces, we can use the Move brush and modify all your pieces together. We can also use the mask, for example, in this side, and we see that it takes all these mask pieces and not just one. And this helps a lot to save time. So far so good. It is quite simple, quite useful. To save all the changes we have made is go to the Z plugin panel again, and instead of clicking on the T-Pose Mesh option, we go to the option T-Pose Subtool. When doing that, ZBrush does the calculation and again it separates each of the pieces in different subtools. And apart from that, each of the pieces generates the change. As you can see, it is a very powerful tool and quite useful. However, up to this point we have a small problem. This happened to me before when I didn't know the option that I will show you now. The problem I used to have was that when I made the modification and realized that I had done something wrong and that I had screwed up, I will say, damn it, how do I go back and get back the changes I had made? I will have to use an old file. And for quite some time that was the case, and it made me lose a lot of time, until luckily I discovered ZBrush and the Transpose Master have an option to save the poses and be able to upload them whenever I need them. We will see now how to do that. We already have our modified object, and by doing a review, if we click on T-Pose Mesh, we combine all the subtools to start modifying them together. When we click on T-Pose subtool, all the subtools are separated and the pose we have made is saved. However, here we are going to do something different. What we are going to do is that first we're going to combine all the poses. Again, okay, we're going to go back to Z plugin Transpose Master, but instead of clicking on T-Pose subtool, we're going to click on T-Pose Mesh again. By doing this, we get a new panel that tells us we can keep the pose we have generated. This pose we're gonna save and call it T-Pose 2. There is no problem up there, and we have learned how to save a pose. What we are going to do now is go to Z plugin and separate the pieces again. Well, now how are we gonna carry a pose we have already saved? We go back to Z plugin when the pieces are separated, and instead of clicking on T-Pose Mesh, we go to T-Pose Subtool. A different panel appears where it says that we can load a pose that we had already generated previously. For example, generate a zero pose. And if I load it, we see that I again record the initial pose I already had. As you can see, this option to save poses and upload poses is a very powerful and useful option to not lose any work. Now the recommendation for when using the Transpose master are as follows. The first thing that we must do is to save the zero pose, or the initial pose, that in this case will be this one, to be able to return in case we need to obtain the initial pose of our character. Once we have saved our pose with the method we have learned, we can modify our character in any way, and after we have modified it, we should also save the pose. You never know what might happen. For example, this is the initial pose. I also saved the poses of the examples and some deformation that I did, so I took over the other poses, load file. I'm recording the pose that I generated in this video. In this case it will be this one. And it also works to change from one pose to another. Let's go to Z plugin. Let's load another pose. I had already made another pose that was the pose 1. And as you see, I loaded without any problem. As you can see, Transpose is a very powerful tool that allows us to save the poses, allows us to load the poses, and allows us to work all the elements or subtools of an object together. Something to keep in mind with this option is that the more polygons the subtools have, and the more subtools there are, the longer it will take to make the changes, and more if each subtool has subdivisions. Having subdivisions and enough polygons will cause the program to take much longer in some cases to make certain calculations, but that won't be a problem in the end. Well, I recommend you practice this option, practice each of the steps, practice the 4 steps we have studied, combine and generate the pose, apply the pose and separate the objects, save and load. These are 4 very important steps that you should apply, and I recommend you to practice them quite a lot. I hope you like this video. I will see you in the next, where we are going to use this tool to organize the proportion of our character. See you in the next video.